Well, here is proof that these guys, 2 years in a row plus, have produced elderberries. You know, everbearing elderberry. The pollination is the issue, because if you have one that blooms almost year round, most of the other elderberries, from what my experience, from what I've seen, out of the dozens or hundreds of seedlings and wild Florida elderberries we have around here, do not bloom. Now this is not a rare occurrence, because I've talked to other people that have patches, or in the wild or whatever, that randomly see flowering elderberries almost year round, except when it's freezing. And these guys, even the little frost or whatever we had, the immediate flowers in the frost died, and then it just flowered again right after the frost. Would it even be worthwhile to get two genetically different everbearing elderberries and plant them close together and potentially have elderberries almost year round? Got our Sweet Baby Ray barbecue sauce that's just old. It got old, so sugars and all kinds of stuff in there. And this is our kind of open fermentation stink water bucket here that's way in the back. We hardly ever put much in there, mostly oranges and stuff, but we really need to amplify this stuff, especially if we're going to start doing a banana circle or two for next season, or for the end of this season. In the last garden vlog video we did, I was talking about wetland zone 1, possibly putting bananas in one of the spots, what I called the impossible gardening area or whatever. But I highly doubt I could dig a banana circle there, to put all the carbon and stuff down there, and then fill up with leaves and smaller materials, compost, whatever, potting soil. I may be able to do like the raised age wood chip bed, but here's the thing. Back here, I don't know, part of wetland zone 2, the wettest area in our property. This isn't the wettest spot on this property. This is where I did a lot of banana experiments with a raised bed here and in barrels. The first year, everything except like 1 or 2 banana plants froze to death. And I'm told it's because these walls in these garden beds raise the roots up, of the bananas, because they're not super deep rooted. And the roots just did not have enough insulation as you would have as putting it directly in the ground. Would that be an issue with age-raised, wood chip bed, where you have all this microbials and fungi and earthworms and all composting the soil and creating heat at the root system? Now, I have planted once or twice, or I don't know what type, our heirloom variety, which may be Orinoco or something else, or brand name. I think it's Orinoco, based on everything I've everything I've seen and read about. I've put it directly in the ground in this wetlands area, and yes, there apparently are areas where it's too wet and they rot and turn to mush and don't even last 2 seasons. So this is why we did the raised bed. This will still allow it to be wet. It's still wet. It's gonna, wick up that water, and it gets a lot of water here. There's enough shade around here that it wouldn't be affected too much by drought and sunlight. So they were happy until that freeze got them. But just like that impossible garden area, look at this. This is all forest, swamp. There's no easy way to dig here at all to create a banana circle. Back when I did these experiments in 2015, You know, I wasn't in any sort of gardening groups or clubs. I was just hearing about hugelkultur, and I was working on that kind of modified hugelkultur raised bed system there, which I grew like all kinds of okra and some greens and a variety of other stuff. And until recently, I just thought, well, you know, this was a failure. Why try again? But, you know, the new knowledge, new expertise or experiences, you know, with multiple people, with YouTube being more mature, you know, 10 plus years, you know, away from that, the knowledge is easier to find now. People in the local area have knowledge. You know, it's no longer just you plant this one or two varieties and if we have a mild winter are we going to get bananas. So for a long time I thought, well, I'll remake these beds and put asparagus in here, because some of the asparagus really doesn't like the sun, or don't like the sun, but they don't care, you know, if it's cold, because they're, you know, a lot of people up north in northern states grow asparagus. But I really don't know what I'm going to do here with these guys. That's why I haven't really prioritized this bed here to remake it somehow. You know, every once in a while I'm throwing stuff. I just threw that pine limb there, you know, and just it'll make itself eventually, and when we find out what we're going to do, it'll either be ready or we can quickly make it ready to plant out. Two of the things I regret not having is a grass catcher on my lawnmower and a wood chipper of some sort, you know, to make better use of our sticks and pieces. You know, having a wood chipper would allow you to get these limbs and all and make them into smaller pieces, so that these age-raised wood chip beds, or for just for mulching around a rose bush or anything, it allows you to do a denser planting. Because if you squish this up, cut it in a few pieces, it's not going to be as packed and as dense as having this chipped up. And you know, grass is a green, like a nitrogen, you know, that composts really well. This is like something that people in the permaculture world, I guess, don't really want. They don't want the grass. They want that grass to create nutrients for something else, you know, vegetables and fruits. As far as a grass catcher and a lawnmower, they're pretty expensive new, so it's hard to justify the cost of putting a new grass catcher on your riding lawnmower when you could go out and just buy compost, like tons and tons of it, for the same cost of one grass catcher. And I'm not sure, even in 5 or 10 years, if that grass catcher will pay for itself before it breaks down, or you get a new riding mower or something and that grass catcher no longer fits your riding lawnmower and you have to go buy a new grass catcher. So let's look at this dunstan chestnut here that we did the post-mycorrhizal bed on. Went through the drought just fine. It looked good the whole time. I'm assuming it's got some new growth on it, you know, full of leaves still. I can't wait until we eventually get something that is going to pollinate with it and create new nuts, chestnuts, and obviously those are seeds as well. So I did plant out nuts one time, or I should say not in the ground, but I bought some chestnuts and put them in the refrigerator with some peat moss or whatever, and guess what? They root when they want to in the refrigerator. You don't just cold stratify them and plant them in the ground, which I guess you could do, but if that's how it works, all the time. You know when they're ready because they're rooting in the bags. That was just an experiment, you know, and I gave those chestnut plants away, I believe. One thing I was thinking about doing is, because that starfruit, which is like 10, 12 years old, well, I put this in 2015, so, okay, so it has to be like 10 years old or less. I put it in here, and the breakdown of the material creates a little bit of heat. There's shade here, creating some cold protection, and these high walls, but it dies down pretty low every year. But it's a mature plant based on its age. Wonder if we could pot it up, try to protect it for a winter or two, see if it fruits, and see what kind of quality of fruit it would be. It may even be a good candidate to put on that south open barn wall where we put the jackfruit and the mountain soursop. I would hate to just kill it by doing that, but it's not really doing anything. It's just a novelty. It comes back every year here, and I have planted stuff like that. Guavas, tropical guavas, and starfruit, even grafted ones when I used to get them discounted at Lowe's and stuff like that. You know, before freeze, they used to heavily discount, you know, fruit trees and stuff like that, so I'd buy the crap out of them. I planted them all along these sweet gums, thinking there'd be some sort of protection. I think one of the starfruit came back a couple years, and then it just froze down. Most likely it froze below the graft the first time and just kind of survived. But there's so much, like I said, of this composting, decomposing of you know, carbon and stuff here, that it's creating a heat there, so the roots are always warm even when it's freezing outside. Yeah, if I had a wood chipper, man, that oak tree there that I saved, I would chop it, boy, and I would just put that mulch all around any of these citrus trees, or a bunch of them that aren't resistant or tolerant of citrus greening, you know, sambokins and all that stuff. Don't know how much it would help, but chip the leaves, chip everything at once, and just mulch the heck out of them. And we got ginger growing here, turmeric growing right beside of it, taro, edu, malanga, something here and there, different varieties of stuff. But look at this. I think I could chop that, boom, or even low, and I think it would come back from the roots over and over again. Let it grow, re-chop it. So this would be like a chop and drop. Nobody thinks of like an oak tree as a chop and drop oak tree, you know, a plant at all, right? Now here's an apple tree that I planted like 5 or 9 years ago or something, and it's, you know, it's losing all of its leaves for the fall, but it looks good pretty much in the summer all the time. Hasn't gotten any kind of powdery mildew or anything. Fire blight, I guess. I don't know. Or does that only occur when they're blooming? I have no idea if this was a grocery store apple or what. So I have a small budget this month to get, you know, a few things. Remember, I got the dwarf damois banana. I bought, you know, 20 or 30 bucks worth of Gainesville grown fruit this month. I probably should get some potting soil, maybe some compost, maybe some more lime, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to go ahead and get most of the the experimental pomegranates for this area this month as well, and just get it over with, you know. See what survives, see what may be thriving. But you know, the plugs we get are small. They might be 2 inches, they might be 14 inches. They probably need to grow out in a pot for a couple of years and need to promote their fast growth with some kind of coffee grounds or fertilizer or something, so that they're probably 2 to 3 foot before they go in the ground. To me, that is a low priority fruit. I think we've got 4 cultivars in the ground. 2 of them I think are supposed to be okay for the area, Christine and Afghansky or something. We got a wonderful, that's not in the ideal location, that people usually have grown over the last 40 or 50 years here, but it's not the best for the area, you know, for the climate. And I mistakenly got, I think it's purple heart, which may or may not be alive in all the weeds. It was not happy back here in this wetland zone 2-esque area, so we moved it last year. Hard to find in all the weeds, but when I do find it, it's alive. So maybe in the next year or two we can get it to grow a little bit taller. Once it gets maybe 3 foot or more, we won't have as much problem. It'll be easier to mulch around it to prevent weeds from growing. But that is not a known variety that's good here. It was mistakenly shipped by a nursery to me a few years ago, and I just planted it out. There are probably 10 or 15 varieties that are known to have some success in the state of Florida. So, and I probably have access to about 60 to 75% of those. I don't have to get all of them. I could just say, okay, let's get what's available. Let's get this experiment started. Let's not have to spend too much more money doing this down the road. Let's get it over with. But I also kind of want to get another cultivar to of bananas, and you know, any time of the year we can do this, any next year, whatever. But if it's just one more cultivar of bananas or something, you know, I might just be tempted enough to get it before winter and either protect, you know, a small one during the winter, bring it inside, or rush out a banana circle before it freezes. Try to heavily promote that composting process, using stink water and whatever means available, compost, magic soil, or, you know, get the earthworms, the fungi, everything seeded in there fast. But, you know, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine right now, but I'm definitely thinking about that. But I'll have to actually go dig somewhere and see the root density of wherever I look to see if I can even dig that pit, you know, without some kind of mechanical equipment. Last video was entitled something like "This is the thought process" or something behind stuff. And, you know, if you've been here for a long time, since day one, you know, watching our garden vlogs, you'll see that my thought process is right here. I'm thinking about this. I'm talking about it here. And I know some people probably want to see more action, less talk and more action. Sometimes, you know, when we were doing that, those first season of aged wood chip alternative beds, we were putting stuff down, you know, throwing sticks, you know, here's tallow, here's sweet gum, here's maple, here's, you know, we're doing a nutrient drench, here we're putting, you know, soybean meal, wheat bran, whatever in that. Comes an avocado tree, here comes a loquat tree, here comes, you know, longevity spinach. But, you know, if we do that, it's going to be repetitive, and everybody's going to see the same thing, you know, in every other video. We have to try to, you know, figure out new things and evolve, I guess. But, you know, the pomegranate thing, like I said, it could take 2 or 3 years before stuff goes into the ground, unless I find a local nursery selling a 15 or 30 gallon pomegranate. And that's what I found, 15-gallon pomegranates last season, and we planted them in the ground. One of them got highly stressed during the drought, but we watered it, and luckily it made it through, and it's recovering. So this pomegranate thing is just going to be boring. You know, I'm going to put them in pots. If they grow, they'll get a bigger pot, and if they grow some more in a year or two or whatever, we try to find a place in the ground to put them. We've never done a banana circle, so that would be new to the channel. That would be something exciting for us to do. A lot of hard work, but we have the material to do it. We have a lot of that pine trunk, you know, cut pieces, logs. So that would be the majority of what goes in the bottom of that banana circle. We're getting close to the end of season 2 of our gardening vlogs and stuff on YouTube, and I would hope that by the beginning of season 4 we can show progress, major progress reports, whether it's successful or failure, success or failure. I think I'm going to rip this Celeste fig up. It's not done much here. It was supposed to be a black mission. Probably give this to a family member, a friend, or somebody, and they can, have a nice little fig here, and they may even be able to divide the root ball up there and make 2 or 3 or 4 plants with it. I don't know. This was in the heat of the sun. It's higher up in a sand pit here, basically, so it didn't have a lot of moisture retention during that drought, and it did not produce. But did it produce one fig or 2? Or I think it might have produced 1 fig this year. So this is not a good spot for it. Yeah, we can do a post-mycorrhizal bed, but why waste it when we have a giant Celeste already that produces pretty good for us? And this would be a prime area maybe for something else. And this is our Rio Grande palm, sable, Texas sable. They have a bunch of names for it. It's supposed to have a edible fruit. And we've had this 10, 12, 15 years. I don't know any, but it's barely even got a trunk there. These guys are supposed to have a more larger, more rounder diameter trunk, I guess, than Florida sables. And it's doing well. It's doing well for a long time. I would hate to have to try to dig that up, because I know that tap roots and everything, you'd probably kill it trying to get it up without digging it with some kind of bucket or something. But I don't need to. I'm going to let it grow, and I've never tried any kind of the sable fruits. I think they call it macharo or something like that when it's from the Rio Grande palm. I think I'm also getting to the point where within the next season or 2, I would like to have some permaculture people come in here and say, and look, and maybe get some inspiration for themselves, but also say, okay, this is what I would do. This is where I would plant something else. This is where I'd fill in. Oh, you got all this area here where, you're not utilizing it. Fill in it with this. Put this here. Give me some inspiration as well, so that you can take a little bit of knowledge that I've learned, and I can take a lot of knowledge that you have learned and put it to some kind of use. I know that I haven't used this pyramid or layering system where you have this big thing here, the smaller thing under that, the smaller thing under that, and then like a vine or ground cover on the bottom, the levels, the height levels of different trees and shrubs and this and that. I haven't put that to good use, and I probably haven't put open spaces to good use. One thing I have going for me is I have tons of weeds, tons of tree material always falling in storms and rotting, and like red maples, pine trees, sweet gums, tons of grass. If I can eventually find a good, easier way to harvest that for composting and mulching and stuff like that. So permaculture, it can be the levels, for some people. That's most important, and the chop and drop. But it's also utilizing what's available around you without going 100 miles to get something. We can turn these weeds into mulch. We can turn these weeds into stink water, fetid swamp water, whatever you want to call it. Korean anaerobic organic fertilizer. I'm not sure the exact name, but use what you got to, and including your own urine, I guess, if you want to do human manure and urea, and if you have chickens, chicken fertilizer, rabbits, rabbit fertilizer, and create kind of like a web of where you're relying less and less on outside materials. Again, my goal is to try to get some of my kids to get into this, to help out and make things easier as they get older. But I know we're not fully utilizing what we have available here. Anyway, I may start working on another video today, like another age-raised wood chip bed video. I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll have time to start doing that, because I've started working and doing a few other things. But I'm not going to put it on this garden vlog video. We'll make a, you know, a single topic or something, maybe video. All right, guys, I think that's it. Take care.